Live? All right. All right. Well, welcome to another episode of Navigating Consciousness, my weekly series here. And yeah, there's a few things I definitely wanted to get into. We're just still getting set up, so there'll be a little pause here for a moment. Hooray. Okay. Well, first of all, I guess I'd like to wish everyone viewing a happy New Year. It's the Rave New Year, which is the Human Design New Year, and that's when the sun moves into the 41st gate. The sun moved into the 41st gate. Hey, Allison. The sun moved into the 41st gate yesterday. So yesterday the sun was in the 41st gate first line. Today the sun's in the 41st gate second line. I've been contemplating a lot about the 41st gate, in part because it was chosen as the beginning. All the gates in the body graph relate to different codons. So they all relate to different genes that code for different amino acids. The start codon is the 41st gate. So there's one start codon and three end codons. So these are gates that don't relate to a specific amino acid or protein. They relate specifically to the beginning of a chain or the end of that chain. And like I said, there's only one start codon, and that's the 41st gate. And so when the sun is in the 41st gate, that's when we start over. And that is the Rave New Year. So the 41st gate is the gate of decrease. That's what it's called. That's the hexagram keynote in the I Ching. What decrease refers to is like the cutting back. So when the season is over, the gardener cuts back. Like cut back the trees, they cut back everything gets cut back, gets taken back to the best starting point for it. And that's really what the 41st gate is. And it's interesting because the 41st gate is also where Pluto will be moving after it leaves the 60th gate. I've talked extensively about the 60 because Pluto's been in the 60th gate since 2021, and the 60th gate is the gate of limitation, and the 41st gate is the gate of decrease. So in a certain way, when Pluto moves from the 60th gate to the 41st, it's sort of out of the frying pan into the fire, but it's not. But it is. It's kind of like using what we've gotten. We're going to know what we can cut back to or what we no longer need. We're starting a new journey. Pluto moving into the 41st. It's the start of a new journey, a new chapter, and literally the start of something new. And yeah, we have to decide what we're going to take with us. What we can leave behind. What we can cut away and what we can maintain, because it's going to produce something useful. When I was thinking about what I was going to say today, what I was going to talk about, there was like a bunch of things. I really do want to touch on a few things that are kind of dark, but I feel it's important to address them because there's a lot of misinformation about well, I'll get to that. But the one thing, just the last thing that I want to touch on about this Pluto transit that is so very important, and it's important because we're also in that, the sun is in that gate right now. So we are getting a really clear representation maybe of the energy that is going to be dominant in the background, in the unconscious primarily, but that's going to percolate up into the conscious awareness. So yeah, just a really good time right now to contemplate what can you leave behind? What can you cut away? What's become overgrown and sort of unruly in a certain sense? Like, what do you need to strip away in order to reestablish order, orderly growth? What is it that you're even trying to produce here? And what is necessary in that sense? While I was going through the, pardon me, while I was going through the human design ephemeris and looking at, all these transits that are going to be coming up, I just was really looking at, okay, so Allison's asking if this cutting away is physically or energetically, and I would say both, you know, but obviously, it's like the last episode, Allison, I was working on clearing a lot of people out of your field and out of Frankie's field. So there is a need, and I've been doing that for myself and for my clients as well. Just really like aware that I've been holding on to a lot of people, people in my mind living rent free, so to speak, who don't need to be there. And it's not like incrimination. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just they're not in my life anymore, and they're probably never going to be in my life again. So I don't need to hold on to them. I don't need to think about them. And what I've seen is that the more I remove these people, the more space is created for others to start coming in. So in that sense, yeah, physically, maybe clearing, a good time to, clean house, like, go through stuff. What do you need? What do you don't? What is it if you had to move tomorrow? What would you take, right? Because when you're packing up, when you're moving and you're packing up all your stuff, you're going to throw away a lot of stuff because it's not worth taking with you. It's just taking up space that other things, or just making this move more difficult, right? You don't want to have to move more than what you have to. Energetically as well, of course, yeah, like it's a burden. It's a burden to carry something energetically that is, not worth it. That belongs to the past, and has no space in your present or future. What I was looking at in terms of the human design transits, I was just watching Pluto and how it was moving through things. So before Pluto was in the 60, before it was in the gate of limitation, it was in the 61st gate, which is the gate of, it's like inner truth, esoteric knowledge. And so Pluto moved into that gate in 2018, and then is moving into the 41st gate in April of this year. And so it's just really, really interesting to see it all play out. There was 3 years where there was the ability, or the energy was there to really get a lot of downloads, with Pluto in that 61st gate, to really get turned on to some esoteric knowledge so that we can survive this limitation, so that we can have some awareness of a bigger picture of some truths, that we could hold on to while we went through something that, I don't know, hasn't been that great, quite honestly. It's been tough. A lot of people are having a really difficult time right now. And even if you personally are not having the most difficult time right now, people who are having a very difficult time. And it's only going to get worse in that sense. I predict, you heard it here first. But of course, there's lots of people talking about it. But bankruptcies are going to be forthcoming. The election is going to be very interesting if it even happens. There's definitely some, rumbles of, is there going to be something that's going to happen that's going to allow for the establishment of, martial law, something like that. A lot of migrants coming in. They're not all migrants, right? I mean, there was this episode of Joe Rogan that I was listening to. This country singer, I forget his name now. This came out maybe a couple of weeks ago, and the guy was talking about how a rancher that he knows or a rancher who came to one of his shows was relating the story to him about how him and his family were placed under house arrest for 2 days. Like they weren't allowed to leave their house, and the federal agents who were on the property weren't telling them what was going on. And then after that 2-day period, they were informed that there were 9 in what they termed insurgents on their property. This is down in Texas. So which they knew about, and they knew that these men had crossed the border into Texas from Mexico, and that they were, looking to stir up some shit. But that's going to be, how many of those guys made it through and are just sort of waiting, to be activated. I mean, it's entirely possible. Or, it could take any number of forms. Not that that's even the most important thing. I don't think who's president actually matters at this point. I really, really don't. And I don't think anyone should really be paying all that much attention to it. And I think it's actually a big source of distraction, right? Because that's not about inner knowledge, right? There's no truth. There's no truth there. It's all lies, and we all know it, and it's all corrupt, and we all know it, and yet people still participate in it, thinking that it does something, and it really does nothing. So we had Pluto going through the 61st gate for 3 years, 2018 through 2021, and then 2021 moves into the 60, and we get this hit of limitation. And people need to, start understanding, what they can live without, what they've been forced to live without for a time. We are forced to live without a lot of freedoms that we took for granted, perhaps, and we haven't gotten them all back. But you learn to live, not learn to live without them, but you learn to not rely on anyone to give them to you. Right? That's one of the ways that you can relate to limitation, is just like, well, this doesn't matter. I'm going to do it anyway. And certainly a lot of people did that in that time. A lot of speakeasies opened up. There's actually something I've been really paying attention to. There's this way of setting up a business called a private membership association. And a number of people have started to open up these private membership, clubs, essentially, like their businesses. I've even heard of some restaurants doing this, but it's basically like you have to be a member to come in here, whatever here is. Whether, again, it could be a restaurant, could be a gym, could be, a grocery store or a farmer's market or whatever, but by making it a private membership association and having the signing of a contract be the first step in gaining entry, you get to do a lot, without having to worry about like regulations and laws that apply to different that apply to corporations or to businesses that have been incorporated. So a lot of people have done that over this period of time, this time of limitation. It's like, government wants you to do this, but there's a way around it. So so a lot of people have found ways around things that they wouldn't have even considered before. So we've learned a lot, I feel, in this time, and then moving into the 41st gate, we're going to get a real ability to just kind of do away with it. Just like, nah, this no longer applies to me. I'm moving in this direction, and I'm not taking any of this with me. Of course, that won't be everybody. It won't even be close to everybody, but you don't want to be where everybody's going. You want to be following your individual guidance, your own inner authority, and you really don't want to be following the herd, because where the herd is going is not great. And this is, something that I have been thinking about or getting access to, and in my sessions, this is something that's been coming up, and that's, there's this mind virus, and it's infected a lot of people, very well-meaning, very kind-hearted, very spiritual people have been infected with this mind virus, where there's this idea that like there's a savior, that there's something watching over us, that there's guardian angels or the universe or God or whatever it is, or benevolent aliens, the Galactic Council, like all this stuff. No. If these beings were present and they were benevolent and they were actually watching out for us, we wouldn't be in this situation. It is up to us. I have, in all my years of doing this work, I have not seen anything that I could, consider to be like only positive and only harmonious. It's not what's out there, you guys. It's really, really not. It's dark out there. We are the light, humans. Like it's our light that is being harvested. No one's coming. If the aliens or whatever they are that are flying these this disclosure business, if these beings were actually in it to help us, they wouldn't make agreements with the government to not make themselves visible. Like maybe they're waiting until humanity reaches a certain threshold of consciousness before it's like safe for them. Maybe, but that doesn't make sense either, because what are we going to do to them if they've traveled here from other dimensions or faraway planet? I mean, if they can disable our nuclear weapon, like what are we going to do? Like what threat can we possibly pose? So why aren't they disclosing themselves? Well, because they're here for their own reasons, and their reasons are dark, like dark reasons. They're not here because they're light beings. They're not. They're here to harvest. They're here to harvest material, DNA. I don't know. I haven't spoken to them. But it's not kind. It's not kindness, you guys. Like I would in terms of cutting away things, this is something I would really cut away. There's nothing coming to save you because you don't need to be saved. You are where it's at in this framework, in this dimension, in this reality. It's humans. Humans are the highest frequency of light. We are the creative force in this world. It's our world. It really, really is, and it is a reflection of how we want it, and so if enough of us can strip away this need for a savior and can strip away this idea that there's something above us that wants what's best for us but isn't showing itself for some reason, and is like filling our heads and our world with like all these kind of mysterious little winks and nudges, none of which actually mean anything. I mean, it's not that synchronicity isn't real, and there are these nudges from the universe, but it's not the universe. It's our own unconscious. It's our bodies, right? Kind of giving us feedback that something good is happening, or we're in like alignment, with our true self. Something like that. I don't even fully understand. I can see it, but I can't explain it very well yet. Maybe it will come in time. But that would be my advice in terms of this, like this stripping away period, and the stripping away period that we're going to be existing in for three years, almost 4 years. Starting in April, late April, early May of this year. One other thing, there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about in terms of the transits, actually, because it's kind of interesting. I hadn't considered it before, but there's this woman who I follow on YouTube. I forget her name right now, but she posts some interesting content, and she was just talking about how when you start talking about these outer planets, Neptune and Pluto, especially. Because Uranus does a full cycle every 84 years. So there's lots of people living today who are carrying the energy of where Uranus is now, right? Uranus is in the 23rd gate. It was in the 23rd gate 84 years ago. There's lots of people who were alive 84 years ago when Uranus was in the 23rd gate. There is no one alive who was alive when Pluto was in the 60 or the 61, you know, because it's a 240 plus year cycle. So it's not, not your parents, not your grandparents, not your great grandparents. Like it's been, I don't know how many generations of humans we have to go back to, but we're talking about something that happened, in the 1780s, late 1770s, 1780s. Like it's been a minute, and we are going to be carrying this energy for the rest of our lives, right? We're going to be the frequency holders for this energy, it's Pluto in the 41, Pluto in the 61, Pluto in the 60. These are big time. These are big time gates. They're very mutative, very, very mutative. And we are going to be the frequency holders of mutation for the rest of our lives on this planet. We are in a period of mutation that will exist as long as enough people are alive from this time to hold that frequency, and that needs to be kept in mind at all times. Neptune also, Neptune's cycle is 100, I think it's 140, it's either 146, I think it's 146 years, something, or maybe it's 160 something. I don't recall exactly, but it's that same thing. Neptune's in the 36th gate, right? It's the gate of crisis. I've talked about this a bunch. Neptune hasn't been in that gate for 140 plus years. So no one living, parents, grandparents, like we're holding that. Neptune's been out of play for a long time, right? It's been 140 plus years since Neptune's been in the 36. So yeah, it's just good to think about, good to contemplate our, position and what we're being programmed with, and what we're going to be carrying for the rest of our time on this planet in these bodies. I wanted to briefly touch on Neptune because it's in a very interesting line currently. So it's in the fourth line of the 36th gate, which is a gate of crisis, like I said. In its exaltation, the ability to prepare for and anticipate decline through accumulation of secret or privileged information, the realization that knowledge, both covert and esoteric, is necessary if one is to be prepared for crisis and change. In its detriment, the tendency in recognizing the strengths of the opposition to accept the inevitability of decline and rather than resist to offer one's services to guarantee survival. So yeah, either way, what Neptune is programming us with is the awareness of what we need to survive, what we're already in but we're not aware of, and we're not going to be aware of it for another year or so. I think Pluto moves into the 25 in like late 2024, early 25. It's in the fourth line right now, so it's gonna probably take about another year. Because it will go retrograde and all that stuff. I have in my astrological natal chart, as well as in my human design body graph, obviously because it's the same. My Neptune and Moon are conjunct, so I have a Moon Neptune conjunct in Sagittarius. So I have a bit of a wherever Neptune is, it's sort of like it hides. It's hard to see. It veils. It creates mystery. With my Moon, though, I being conjunct with Neptune, and I mean obviously it's not conjunct now, but I have some awareness. Like I'm able to kind of see through the veil, and I can tell you, I mean, it's not going to come as a surprise to anyone watching this, I'm sure. But the crisis that we're in is, it's very dark. it's like, spiritual warfare. Um, when Neptune moves into the 25th gate is the gate of innocence. So our innocence is going to be veiled. There won't be a way to sugarcoat it. There won't be a way to transmit universal love to the crisis, which is actually good because we'll get some clarity finally about what it is that we've been a part of. The crisis will come to a head. There will be disclosure. I don't know if it will be about extraterrestrials, but I think we will, things will become very clear, and it's going to be impossible to make it light. It's going to be impossible to find love in it, which is great because there's so much more to our reality than love and light. It's not to say that these things don't exist and that they don't have value, but there's a lot more going on, and there's a lot more that we need to. There's energy that we need to bring forward, and we don't need to be in harmony with this darkness. It's evil. There's a lot of missing children out there. Where are they? John of God, if anyone is familiar with that, he was a healer, and he had a ranch down in Brazil in the rainforest, and I never interacted with him directly, but I know people who did, and I think he was very legit. I think he had some real skill in that sense, kind of a Rasputin kind of character. A real healer who was maybe not so concerned about morals and ethics and these kind of things. And as it turns out, John of God had women that he was using as not sex slaves, sure, but they were having children. He was impregnating them or having them impregnated and give birth to children. Where did those children go? And he was doing it for like 20 years. I mean, how many children were born on that property? I don't know how many women he had, and we all know probably most of those women died, and lived in horrible conditions. These are things that we're gonna have to. I think this is what's going to be disclosed. Jeffrey, like everything that's happening. Epstein died, and then the world went into lockdown, right? It's like these are very, very powerful people, very rich, very powerful people who don't want their dirty laundry aired, and it's not even. It goes beyond dirty laundry. They're not doing this like for kicks. I mean, they might be, but there's something else going on, and I think it's going to be made clear to those who want to see. There's a bunch of people who won't care, and that's fine too. They'll care about the things that they care about. But we're going into some dark times, folks, like for real. And we're already in it. We don't see it. We can't see it collectively. But it will become much more clear. And the thing that we can rely on, the thing we can rely on, we can't rely on extraterrestrials, galactic council, or guardian angels. Like, we can't rely on these things. But we can rely on the esoteric knowledge that we have accumulated, over the past 7 years, give or take, to manage ourselves correctly through this crisis. And it's funny, I guess, because I came to human design in 2018, so that was or shortly thereafter, I guess, maybe 2019. But yeah, like that was when I got into it, interestingly enough. And I think the growth of human design in the 2020s, because it's become very popular, is basically just like it's a consequence, it's a byproduct of this Pluto in the 61st gate, and the access that we have because of it. or had, because it moved out of that in 2021. Okay. All right. So I see Allison's up. I don't know if there's anyone else who is here with us today, but if there is anyone who is watching and they want some human design, if you want me to go over some aspect of your body graph or do a quick go through on it, we can do that. If anyone wants some work, I can do some work for you. I happen to be a container for a hell of a lot of esoteric knowledge, so you can consider me a resource in that sense. I know, Allison, that we've been talking over the past few days. I know there's stuff going on for you and for your granddaughter specifically. So I would I'll take some time and see if I can shift something for Aubrey. So I'm just gonna get into the right headspace. I would like to say, as I drink this delicious coffee that was made for me, there's a lot of good stuff. There's a ton of good stuff. This coffee is delicious. It was made for me by a very kind woman in appreciation, for me doing some human design for her and her family. And she just loaded me up. She made a whole jar of delicious cold brew coffee. I'm getting raw milk, from a local grocer. And so I got some delicious cold brew coffee made with love. I got raw milk in here. It's like really good. There's a lot of good stuff. And that's sort of the thing too, right? Like that's, I think, part of the esoteric knowledge is just how good it is. Like if you want quality, holy shit, can you find quality? You can find quality of anything and everything. I went into a store, the same place I get my raw milk actually, before I came to record this podcast. And I was looking, my brain wasn't firing today. I wasn't able to, I felt like I needed, something to, support. So I went in looking for a supplement, and the woman who owns this place, who I'm friendly with, she said, you should try these beans. They're like cacao beans, but they're different, and they have the theobromine in it. So you're getting that part. She said it might really might give you what it is you're looking for. And man, it was great. And these are South American beans. Never heard of them before. But yeah, it took 7 or 8, like chewed on them. They're not the most tastiest thing, but yeah, like so good. Feels so good in combination with this coffee. I mean, I feel really good. I feel really, really good. And I want that. I want that for anyone who's open, like we can make our way through it, and we can not only make our way through it without struggle and without suffering, but like with a tremendous amount of grace and just like high quality everything. We're in a renaissance. But the Renaissance was pretty localized, right? It was like a pretty small part of the world that really went through it. We're global now, but so it's not like, so you can find good coffee everywhere, but there's still, 95% of the coffee grown is awful, and I would not recommend drinking it. But you can find really good coffee, and it's like a very different thing, drinking good coffee versus not good coffee. You can find these superfoods very easily, very, very easily. And the quality of them it's undeniable. And so all that's available too. And we should all be taking advantage of that to the greatest degree possible. Okay. All right, so Aubrey, this girl is a very young girl, and I'm not going to get into everything that's happened for her, but she's been through a lot. People her age, what's the world going to be like when they're our age? That's a real mystery. And you know, the things that were available to us as children are not available to these children. They can't. I was just like reflecting. Like I used to play on the street. You know, like we used to go out onto the street and we used to play like hockey, like on the street. Or not with like ice skates, obviously, but we'd have nets and we have sticks and tennis balls and we'd play street hockey. No one plays on the street. You can't. There's so much traffic. Um, and yeah, and there's a real problem with like children going missing, children being abducted. Sound of Freedom. I would recommend it. I watched this movie recently, and it's something like the largest black market industry in the world right now is human trafficking. Um, yeah, yeah, me too, Allison. I mean, Allison's just saying, that she used to walk her neighborhood when she was 5. And I mean, there were problems then too. I mean, I think our parents were a little laissez-faire with the whole thing, but yeah, there was that freedom, the freedom to explore, the freedom to be without the constant gaze of, parental authority. This young girl who I'm working on also happens to be a manifester, and so for her, freedom and being her own authority, that's something that's going to be built into her from a very early age. It's not something that needs to develop, but her authority has been usurped. She's been through things, and there's been loss, and there's been um, people who have treated her in not very good ways. And she's an emotional being as well. She has emotional authority. So her way of processing this, of making sense of this, is going to be very emotional, right? Lots of ups, lots of downs, lots of downs. And the thing to remember, and there's so many people who are medicated, and there's so many people who are emotional beings and do need to go deep, go down, go down. Um, this was something that I was working on actually with another client of mine today. Just like, I don't know, if you're not I mean, I know not everyone's designed to go deep, but like if you are and you're not, I don't like you're missing out. There's a lot to access down there, and the world is how it is, and it is dark. And if you are at all aware of any of that, and you're not and you're just spiritually bypassing that, right, by talking about how it's all love and light and we're protected and all that, it's like, no, it's not. I got no time for it. So this girl's going deep. She's gone very deep. She's down very, very low. And that's a scary place, going down low, especially for a child. Um, for a child to go that deep, I mean, that's going to be concerning to that child as well as to her, parents or grandmother in this particular instance. So a lot of concern. So it's like, she's down there. She's kind of rummaging around, seeing what's there, trying to find something of value that she can bring back, some information or um, you know, something that will impact. Manifestors are here to impact and they're here to inform. They're not here to guide, right? That's more of a projector deal. So yeah, something. She'll, and kind of like a phoenix, like she will rise from these ashes if she's approached correctly, right? And if she's given what a manifestor needs in order to find peace. So let's see what we can do for her while she's down there. Yeah. So just the thing that comes up, Allison, is I mean, on top of all the things that she's gone through, that has taken her to this very deep emotional territory. There's other people's emotional baggage, for lack of a better term, that she's also carrying that's like literally strapped to her. So it's like ankle weights. So it's sort of like even if she wants to surface, and it's good to surface. It's good to, yeah, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's good. It's good for her to surface. She needs to surface, right? You can't just be down there for days or weeks or months. We have to go up as well, and she can't. She can't surface. She can't go up. She can't reach her joy or her peace. The baggage that she's carrying that's acting like ankle weights that's keeping her from surfacing actually belong to her mother. And it's sort of like something she's keeping, so I know her mother's not really around. I don't know how much contact she has with her, but it's sort of like holding on to things that remind her of her mother, or things that she can hold on to like maintain some kind of contact, or I don't know, something that they can share when she comes back. It's all about this, maintaining connection, a reminder, holding on to stuff for her so that they can, kind of play together when she comes back. Yeah, and I mean, maybe there's some truth there. Maybe there is stuff that she can hold on to, stuff that can remind, she is her mother's child, so that's okay. Whatever the relationship is, I know it's not a great one. But the thing is, if we leave these down here, she can always come back and access them when she needs. She's very good at going deep. It's like there's, deep sea divers, right, who can go down hundreds of feet without scuba gear, right? They can hold their breath and for a very long time, and they can withstand a tremendous amount of pressure, without panicking, going down to get what they need. And so, yeah, so she, right now she's tied to this, but you can just leave it. She could leave it there and surface, and it will be there. And if her mom comes back and they want to unpack some stuff, cool, they can do it then. She can go back and access it, bring up what's necessary in those moments. So she's kind of got a little storehouse down there of all the baggage. But yeah, it's just, like I said, just kind of holding her in place, not letting her surface. So yeah, so we can just like categorize it as that this is something she can leave, not leave behind forever, not completely disregard. Well, you are helping her, Allison. This work is going to help, and yeah, and just see what comes up. She'll let you know, right? She'll inform you if you give her the opportunity. She'll inform you of what it is she needs, and that's like what I said, right? It's like that's how manifestors have to act. They have to tell people what they want or where they're going, not for permission. But that's just because that's their strategy. Their strategy is to inform. And if they inform people of their motivations or their action that they're about to take, then it's fine. No one's going to be upset about it. People get upset at manifestors, like the manifestor child will just walk out of their parents' home, because that's what manifestors do. But and obviously when the child just disappears and no one knows where they are, even though they're fine, more than likely, even though they're fine, it's still like don't do that, right? Like they get yelled at, and that follows them into their adulthood. If they don't tell people where they're going or what they're doing, people will get angry with them. Yeah. So anyway, just removing this baggage that she's tied to, or removing the ties of the baggage to her so she can leave it there and surface. She's pretty deep, so it might take her a couple of days to surface. And but yeah, I think she'll make it out of this one. She'll make it out of this one just fine. And then she'll have that awareness of how deep she can go and how long she can spend down there, and that she can always return, and get what she needs down there, if she needs it, when she needs it, when it's appropriate, when it's correct. All right, Allison, is there anything else that I can do for you? And there's a bit of a delay, so also, again, anyone else who might be with us live today, if anyone else wants anything, please don't hesitate. Okay, yeah, you're welcome. Okay, well, there's something else that wants to come forward, so let me just collect my thoughts for a second. Okay. I'm sure, Jordan Peterson has been around for a long time now. And when he first came out, it's like, it's a little different now. I mean, success changes everybody. But when he first came out, there was a couple of things that he said that I just found so helpful, and I'll just relay them here. The first, and it ties into this esoteric knowledge that I was talking about as well. He talks about truth in a very esoteric, kind of way. He said, okay, Jillian, yeah, thank you for showing up today. I'll get to that for you. I'll get to that for you in just a second. Jordan Peterson talking about truth, he said truth stems from the practice of archery. The arrow flew straight and true. Being true is about being on target. It's not about, there's nothing objective about it, right? It's very subjective. It's very individual. What is true for someone might not be true for someone else. And our society, last week I was talking about this first line phase, that we're in terms of the, galactic cycle. And, how the first line is all about the investigator, and it's all about like taking things apart and, like the science, trusting the science and all that. And so that energy being present in our world is very natural and very normal, and we're coming to the end of it. So it's kind of trying to hold on for dear life and trying to apply itself to as many things as possible. But in the end, it will go away, and it will leave behind what we need. There's good things about it, but a lot of it we don't need, and that's, again, going to be cut away, and we'll have what we need of it. So yeah, it's like the knowledge that we're all being exposed to, the esoteric knowledge, the awareness of what's out there, of what we're interacting with, the crisis that's going to be made very clear in the not too distant future. If it's not keeping you on target, if it's taking you away from where you have to go, it's not for you. It's really, really not. We all have to identify what is true for us, what is keeping us on target, and even being able to identify what the target is. Where are we actually going, to the greatest degree possible? Because of course that's a tough thing to actually understand. But and this ties into the other thing that he was talking about, which is because obviously hitting our target, being successful, right? It's very satisfying. Shooting a nice shot, right, and watching it travel, watching it go exactly where you want it to go. Watching it hit that target. That's a good feeling. We all know what it feels like to miss. We all know how easy it is to miss. What Peterson was talking about specifically was, we all know what it's like to be in hell, either individually, personally, or through the people that we've met in our lives, whose lives have fallen apart, and who made some really bad decisions, trusted some wrong people, zigged when they should have zagged. And now it's like they're living a life that we don't want. And so, but we all know how easy it would be to get there. We can all plot a course that would take us into some very desperate territory. That's very familiar. The other side of it's not so familiar. We know what it's like to live in hell, but we don't, and we know how to get there. That's very easy, but we don't know about heaven, or Eden. We don't the awareness of how to create a little slice of paradise that works for us. That's a much more, I don't know what the right word is. It's tricky. It's tricky because we don't know. We haven't seen it. There's a lot of people on social media presenting themselves in a way that is as if that is what they have achieved, but that is not what they have achieved, right? It is a simulacrum. It's a cheap facsimile, because their entire life is dedicated to maintaining that image, right? They're not living a life. They're generating an image that is going out to a lot of people and maybe making them a lot of money and maybe giving them some status. And that's always nice too. But it's not, we can't all do that. It's not what I'm here for. It's not what probably most people are here for. And I don't know if even the people who are doing it, if that's what they're here for, if they're actually satisfied or feeling successful, or if they're just, doing what they can so that they don't live in hell. So yeah, just something to think about, that what's true for you is going to take you to your rightful place, to your little garden. Maybe that's a real garden, maybe that's just a metaphor, but something to consider when you're being exposed to certain states of awareness or knowledge. Okay. All right, Jillian, let's see if we can tackle that knee pain. So yeah, you're asking, is that a symbol of fear moving forward? So, the knees are a lot about willpower. There's a reason when you propose to someone that you go down on one knee. There's a reason when someone is knighted by a monarch, they went down on their knees. They kneeled. Kneeling is a sign of surrender. So when we're talking about knee pain or knees in general, we're talking about surrender and one's relationship to it. And, are you being too rigid, right? Are you locking your knees the way like a toddler does when they throw a tantrum, right? Because that's just an expression of will, no, I'm not going, no, I'm not doing this. No, I'm not doing that, right? Standing super rigid, locked knees, the whole bit. That's just willpower, right? Willpower running through this little person's body. But with joints in general, we're also talking about flexibility, being flexible, too flexible, being inflexible. The knees and the kidneys are also very much connected. Again, kidneys relating to, like life force and willpower and the right use of it. The right side of the body is the more masculine side. The left side's more feminine. So if we're talking about the right knee, then yeah, moving forward, taking a step in a certain direction, stepping out into the world, right, with that masculine force. Could be about starting something new, some fear. The kidneys are a lot about fear. The kidneys in Chinese medicine are ruled by the water element. The natural emotion of the water element is fear. And fear can freeze you up. Fear can make it very difficult to actually move somewhere. And then, of course, when you're cold and wet, things tend to ache. So, so definitely fear. I don't know if it's fear moving forward, but definitely fear. So let's just see what the fear is about for you. Well, it's not yours. Let me just quickly pause and I'll see. I just want to pull up your body graph here. Yeah, so Jillian is a projector, splenic projector. So with projectors and anyone who's watching who happens to be a projector, this applies to all of you. It doesn't matter what your design is. If you're a splenic projector, if you're an emotional projector, if you're self-projected, right, the G center authority. A lot of what you are a lot of what you are experiencing is not yours. Very rarely is it yours, actually. The projector, because you're here to guide, your awareness of yourself is always going to be trumped by the awareness you have of the people around you. So, yeah, for projectors in general, having some kind of strategy to clear the field, because you're going to be accumulating all kinds of stuff, from everyone who you plug into, consciously or unconsciously. So, Jillian, this is actually something you've been carrying for quite a while. This fear and this pain, is something you picked up quite a long time ago. It's just surfacing. So that you can get rid of it. You can let it go. It's not something you need to carry. And it seems to have to do with someone's confusion. It's definitely a male. I'm not getting any details on who this man is. I don't really get that he's like an important person, like not someone that you were in a relationship with, in any meaningful way. Just sort of an acquaintance maybe, or someone you were around for long enough to kind of pick up, this or that. When I check in, it feels like it's been in there for a couple of years, but like I said, it's just surfacing now. I don't know if you have a history of knee pain, but yeah, just coming forward so we can get rid of it. And like I said, it's just some dude's fear, just almost like a random thing, fear and confusion. And so, yeah, talking about moving forward, if you're confused, right? If you don't know even where you're supposed to be going, like what target are you even aiming for? What do you have to throw at it? All this is just a real lack of awareness on the part of this man. And that lack of awareness causing a lot of confusion and a lot of fear and a lot of pain, internal pain, anxiety and just a real feeling of like restriction. Yeah, none of which you need. You don't need to feel any of that unless it's your own. But like I said, in most cases, it's not going to be. Yeah, and it's really messing with your splenic authority. So projectors who are splenic, the splenic authority is, it is about survival. The spleen is very much about fear, not in a bad way, but it's just what it is. The spleen it's by nature very, very defensive and very focused on keeping us clean and clear and functioning. And so this fear and confusion and, talking about authority, which is about direction, right? What you say yes to, what you say no to. It's all kind of messing with your own ability. So it's been a couple of years, right, where your authority has been compromised because you've taken on, not consciously, but just, again, just how the energy works, right? It's this chemistry, right? You're around someone long enough, you're going to start picking up on stuff, and it's going to be incorporated if you're not careful. And that's why for projectors in general, being very aware of who you're around and what you're feeling, when you're around them, and who you're wanting to plug into, who is it appropriate to share your energy with. Yeah, there's something in you, Jillian, that's holding on to this, though. There's something comforting about it. I don't know why. Kind of, in a weird way, it sort of like reminds you of like how clear you are, and sort of gives you a sort of almost like an inflated sense of self-worth. It's not that you aren't, it's not that you can't have a high sense of self-worth. You have a defined heart center. So yeah, you have high worth, high value. That's built into you, right? That's something that you own, something that that is accessible to you at all times. So again, if you're not feeling like valued or valuable, who's around you? And it's not that they're not valuing you, it's just they're not going to be valuing themselves, and maybe they feel like they have to prove something and all that. So, that's something you've been around, right? You've been around a lot of people with low self-worth and like a sense that they have to prove themselves. And so your sense of self-worth has been, again, kind of compromised in a certain way by the people you've been around, who you've plugged into, who are going through that. So kind of having this to come back to is like a reminder in a certain way of how clear you are and of how little fear you actually have and how easy it is for you to stay on target, but it's messing with you, and it's not something that you took on consciously. It's not something that you feel you need, but on some level that's working through you, somewhere in you there's it's satisfying something, up until now. Because we're gonna get rid of both of these things, both the person's energy and whatever it is within you that wants to hold on to that because it validates you in some way. Okay, all right, cool. There is a bit of structural integrity to that knee, so we are going to fix that up. So do a little bit of a repair here, especially in the especially in the how the nervous system is operating within that particular joint, and how that feedback is going to the central nervous system, and how that communication is taking place both within that joint as well as between that knee and the nervous system. Yeah, so hopefully your sense of direction will be much clearer once this is all processed. Okay, good. All right, Allison just has one last question here. Physically, I have no problem clearing, but energetically, can you advise how to stop people infiltrating thoughts? Does it just go back to saying no? Yes, just say no. When someone enters in and you don't want them, or you're not consciously thinking of them, just no. And then, because the thing is that these people are finding their way to you through established pathways. They're in there. And it's habit. And the only way to change a habit is to interrupt that habit before it can express, before that energy can circulate, can find its current, can close that loop, and then it's been made solid. So yeah, just interrupting it is really like the best way. And I'm a very visual person, so I like to see them going, So you might want to try that. I don't know what your dominant sense is. If you're more visual, you can use visuals. If you're more, auditory or tactile, then it would be a different strategy. But either way, you want to visualize. You want to make it real to your nervous system through whatever sense is the strongest. That this is not circulating. That this is not completing, the circuit is being interrupted and interfered with so that something new can be created. All right, good. Okay, yeah, thanks everyone for all the participation. I really appreciate it. And yeah, you're welcome. Okay, cool. Well, that's my time for this week, and take care of yourselves, everyone. We're in it. We're going to be in it for the rest of our lives. So, be as gentle with yourselves as possible. Your bodies are going to need to carry you, and they're going to need to be in good shape. And so don't put any undue stress on yourselves, especially if it's not even for you, but for someone else. So, yeah, okay. Thanks so much. I'll see you all next week.